Yeah. All right. I mean, I guess we can just start now. Hey,
Have you
everyone.
heard the new rumor about Nancy Reagan, Ronald Reagan's wife? Apparently, she gave the best blowjobs in Hollywood back in the day. We're talking about Spider-Man today.
Yeah, that's right. We were going to talk about like four or five different things, but because we were lazy and didn't record, it's going to be Spider-Man instead because that's topical. But because we're also lazy, it's probably not going to be topical by the time that I cut and edit this episode. We'll see.
Mhm.
But yeah,
Yes, we did see Spider-Man.
we
No Way
did.
Home.
We did. And I keep confusing it with Far From Home, the title.
Oh yeah.
I was looking up the box office going, what's the box office for No Way Home? But I kept typing Far From Home and I was going, geez, it's made 300 million already? That's crazy, man. But no, that was
Yeah.
just... I was looking at the box office of Far From Home and I went, oh, that's me being a dum-dum.
Uh-huh. So what did it make so far?
I saw that it's made like 50 million in preview screenings, which...
Is that it? Really?
Apparently that's a record.
Oh, I would have thought that was not record, but I don't know.
Hmm.
Oh, preview like before opening day.
Yeah.
Oh, right. No, that's quite impressive then.
Most impressive. I think we both really liked the movie.
Like, in my opinion, it's probably the best Marvel Cinematic Universe movie.
Yeah, I guess we'll
Um,
preface and say we'll probably try and chat a little bit about it without any explicit details for anyone listening,
There'll be a spoiler-free section, and then just whatever.
which may be a bit futile given Reddit's efforts of late. But
Yeah, I was actually gonna say, oh, we saw Spider-Man: No Way Home,
hmm,
only in theaters, and Reddit,
exclusively on
and
Reddit,
Twitter, and YouTube.
and presumably 123 movies. Not that I would know what that is, of course, because I watch all my films legally.
Really?
Yep.
Yeah. What? Yeah. So you have a similar opinion that you were like happy that they allowed more emotional moments to breathe,
Mm-hmm.
and it gets a bit by MCU standards definitely gets a bit brutal as well.
Oh yes, yes. There's one or two particular moments that come to mind that I don't think we can really chat about beyond
Just saying that it was brutal.
yeah, as a fight sequence. It's fairly intense. I guess the outcome and the look of the
Gritty, like,
characters being sort of
and
bruised up.
the emotion in the fighting too.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
not just like, oh, we're doing awesome fights. It's like, oh, there's real emotion here.
There weren't as many quips as well, which ironically was a bit of a breath of fresh air, even though Spider-Man's the most
Spider-Man,
appropriate.
he's known for his quips.
Yeah, I think an issue people have had in the past is a lot of those sort of action sequences maybe get a little too jokey.
Yeah. Some people are the opposite of that. I remember when Amazing Spider-Man came out, the Andrew one, the lizard one,
Mm-hmm.
and there was like this guy who's like reviewing it or something, and he's or complaining basically. He's like, Andrew does not quip enough. And then there's like the ending part of that movie where he's fighting the lizard on the building,
Yeah.
and like Andrew's like running away from the lizard. He's like, quip there, and he gets hit, and as he's falling, the guy's like, could have done a quip there.
What is it? Is it like
It's
a?
like a fucking 16-year-old person running away from a giant lizard monster. Like, I think the one thing on his mind is, oh fuck, oh shit, oh fuck. Like, it's fucking.
Oh, that's a wasted. They should have done like a. Should have called it Cinema Quips, and it's like a Cinema Sins video, but it like has a quip counter, failed quip counter.
Failed quip counter.
One here.
Yeah, that guy's whole life is a failed quip counter.
Damn,
Fucking idiot.
we're just hitting home runs today between Cinema Quips and whatever else we've said previous to this that may or may not be deleted when I come back to
Yeah.
editing. Who knows? But yeah, I guess to give my kind of thoughts and to be fair to our one or two listeners, I kind of went into the film ambivalent or like maybe indifferent, which you
Yeah.
were aware of. But I actually had I had quite a fun time watching. I'm happy to concede. You know, I didn't care too much for any more of these Marvel films in particular. I think it's fair to say we're both more interested in Batman, or the Batman next year, or this year,
Yeah.
depending on when you're listening to this, or last
Yeah.
year.
4th of March 2022.
Yes. And yeah, no, I caught myself smiling a couple of times at some of the little character moments, interactions between the main cast and a few supporting roles, shall we say. And I was like, oh, this is delightful. This is a fun little time I'm having.
I got emotional in some of the emotional scenes,
Mm.
slightly. So for what that's worth,
Yeah.
um,
I don't know
it
where
was,
it
it was
sits as far as going to your comment beforehand about best MCU film for me. I definitely think it's probably the best of the three Tom Holland films.
oh
As in, like,
easy.
I will probably rewatch it at some point in the future out of curiosity rather than, or as opposed to the first two, I have no interest.
Yeah,
That's one and done pretty much. It's like, whatever.
yeah.
I barely remember those as it is. I thought its length was fine. Pacing
It
was.
actually doesn't drag at all, really.
Mm, I did have a couple of things, and without again getting into the nitty gritty plot points, there are a couple of plot conveniences which I don't know. I couldn't really overlook as they were kind of unfolding. I was like, okay, I guess yeah, we can't spend too much time on this point or that point. We got to kind of get to the
Move on.
final act and all that sort of thing, which kind of felt a little cheap, given that the rest of the film had kind of built up to. I'm sounding very vague here, but I think you know what I mean. Certain points happening, and then it's kind of like, oh shit, we better rush to the finish a little bit. Um,
I kind of wish the ending went on for a little bit longer.
mm,
Um,
yeah,
like fighting and just general things that happen at the end. So
yeah, yeah,
some the first negative review I saw for this, or slightly negative anyways, was the start is sluggish, like the first half is sluggish,
yeah.
which I disagree with. I think the first half is paced fine. I think the second half is actually just a little bit too fast. I wanted to see more of what there was going on there.
As another kind of remark, um, it's so tricky actually because you kind of want to dissect, just jump into it and dissect like a lot of what kind of happens because that's kind of where the high praises and some
The
of the
meat is,
criticisms are. You know what I mean? There's like very explicit,
yeah.
like
All right. Spoiler free part done.
yeah. If you're a fan of Spider-Man, go see it. You'll definitely like it.
If you're not a fan of Spider-Man, go see it anyway, because I don't know, it's pretty good to
Yeah,
be honest.
it's going to be a good. It's going to be a good night out or day out whenever you want to watch the movie.
It's a movie you could watch alone, but obviously enhanced by watching the other Spider-Man. Take that as you will.
And also enhanced by watching it with a group of 14-year-olds behind you, pointing out references that they get rather than keeping quiet to themselves and just nodding in approval.
Oh my god,
It's
Miles!
person X.
By the way, that's not a spoiler. I'll tell you right now. Miles Morales is not in the movie.
Oh yeah, no. It's like a very sly nod.
Miles.
He's talking
Yeah.
about Miles.
My god, I've seen Into the Spider-Verse too. So is everybody else. It's a
Into
very popular film.
the Spider
Uh,
Verse is great.
yeah,
That's
man, it's a
another
lot of people's
recommend.
favorite Spider-Man. Um, Actually, when the sequel got announced a week or two ago, a lot of people on Twitter, well, not a lot of people, but there was like a group of people on Twitter that were like, "No Way Home, forgotten about. Across the Spider-Verse is my new best friend," or whatever. Like they were like abandoning it. Like I think it was just a
Yeah,
joke, but yeah.
for sure.
Um,
But anyway, I guess
we're gonna
probably.
go into spoiler territory because it's kind of impossible to talk about this film
Yep, you've got 3
without it.
seconds. 3, 2, 1. Aunt May dies.
I was gonna say that, but I wish I said it now. I was
No.
gonna say that. Damn. Okay, yeah, she
It's
does die, and
yep.
it's really good. That whole scene is great, except for the actual impact that the glider hits her with,
Yes,
where it just kind of feels like
that was my
I
biggest
got
issue of
bumped
that.
over.
And look, I understand what you said, and I totally get from a kind of marketing perspective, studio perspective. We got to kind of get a good rating for this film as far as letting as many people see it as possible. And tonally, you know, it's a little more kind of. I don't want to say childish. I don't mean that when I say that. I don't mean that in a kind of derogative way, but you do. It's definitely
Well,
not mature
Spider-Man is a
like.
character that's for like everybody.
Yeah, but would it be fair to say that the Toby films, by comparison, would be a little more mature as far as like,
Well, they're horror based.
yeah, there's a
They're
lot more.
coming from a horror director, aren't they? So,
Yeah, so I can totally
um,
get this
in
different
some
tone.
ways, less mature though.
Mm,
Just to interrupt you. In a lot of ways, less mature.
yeah,
But they do more dark. They get darker in certain aspects.
I guess as far as like on-screen violence or implied violence, I would say that
Well, you see
there's
Norman get impaled in Spider-Man 1. You'd see him get impaled by the glider and he's
yeah,
bleeding and
and even in Spider-Man 2, you don't see it, but it's heavily implied, and there's a cut before it happens where Doc Ock's wife gets.
Rose, she gets like her eye or like whatever,
Oh,
like
I
head
think her whole
impaled by
face
the
is just
glass.
slit open by glass, pretty much.
Yeah,
Pretty fucked.
yeah.
But like, so I guess maybe I had that in the back of my mind. So then when I saw, she kind of just gets like slapped,
You get bumped
almost.
over.
Um,
Yeah, and there's no blood on the glider or anything
yeah.
either. I mean, they're trying to keep it a secret, like, oh, she's gonna survive, it's fine, and then she collapses. Like, they're trying to make it a surprise.
Hmm.
But then again, like, if you, I don't know, like, if you happened to see track fucking 16 that was titled Aunt May Dies, or whatever it was, and like, before you saw the movie, you were just like, huh. Or you accidentally opened up Twitter and saw her fucking die, or YouTube, or anything.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like,
Or you
it's,
got
it's,
the Aunt May dead action figure. No, I'm kidding. That would be funny if that was a thing where it's like Aunt May,
yeah.
dead Aunt May,
But
Aunt May's
like,
tombstone.
you know, they can't account for people getting spoiled. So that's
Oh,
the
sure,
unfair
sure, sure,
criticism.
sure.
But
Yeah.
yeah, like it like this, everything else in that scene is great. The acting is great. It is
Hmm.
an emotional scene. I was like pretty upset. I didn't, you know.
That might be my favorite. What just precedes that action sequence when Goblin's been tricking them. He kind of comes back. Norman's gone because they got this dual personality thing going
Oh
on.
yeah,
Like that whole
yeah.
fight
When
sequence with them.
when Tom, sorry, has the fucking um the spider sense, but he can't quite figure out what's going on. He's like, oh,
Yeah.
there's something wrong. There's danger. There's danger, and then he realizes like it's Goblin instead of Norman. He like webs him up straight away.
Mm.
That was cool.
No, that was all good.
I like that.
Norman was super strong, right? I'm trying to remember from Spider-Man 1.
Yeah, yeah. He basically is like, it's kind of. I mean, it's not the same exact thing, but you know, like Captain America takes his super soldier
Yeah,
serum.
it's a serum
Norman
thing.
takes his serum, and fucking. It's meant to be like, I think it was kind of meant to be him trying to replicate like super soldier serum in that universe.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Because I watched that movie the other day, and they're trying to make it for like the general. He's like, oh, your super soldier project isn't working.
All right,
You
so
know,
that's
'cause,
probably like a Sam Raimi, or yeah, that's probably a nod to that
well, that's
character.
kind of how it usually goes, or sometimes
Mhm.
it's a disease. But in that movie and in that context, his sister goes, "Oh, we got to take the whole line back to formula because the general wants human testing," and Norman goes, "Oh, I'm gonna fucking test it on myself," and then he
Yeah,
goes crazy.
and of course that kind of sequence comes from something that I admittedly didn't actually consider or see coming, which was that Peter's attempting, or the Tom Holland Peter, because of course, as everyone probably knows anyway, the other two Spider-Men do make an appearance, but our Tom Holland
Talk
Spider-Man,
about later.
yeah, he's basically trying to redeem these characters, fix them, for lack
Well,
of a
he's
better
no, he's
term.
trying to cure them.
Yeah, yeah.
He's trying to save them because he's like, oh, they're gonna go back and die.
Which
That's
was
not very
yeah,
cool.
which was pretty great. I thought, at least as a premise, going, oh, okay.
Yeah, I guess the other two Spider-Men never outright attempt to kill those villains.
No, they never do.
They just, I mean, especially Toby's like, I'm just gonna jump out of the way and hope nothing happens to you, like, or
Yeah.
like, you know what I mean? They always kill themselves.
Oh,
So
and that one, that's forgiving because it's like a split second. He's just like, "Fuck, I've got to jump out of the way."
yeah, his
Um,
spider sense actually just forces him to react. Basically,
yeah,
that's kind of how
yeah,
it works.
It's not like a certain other superhero who doesn't kill, who, as we've discussed many times, creates the conditions to kill someone and says, "I'm not going to save you."
Yeah, I'm not gonna
It's like,
save you, bro. Don't worry.
okay,
They're gonna fix that in a certain iteration. It may
yeah.
or may not be coming out though.
So I,
This Spider-Man wants to save them. He wants to save the villains. He's like, oh, that's not. I don't want to send them back. I'm essentially killing them. And also, Aunt May wants him
kind
to do the
of
right thing.
pushes him into that
She,
direction.
she is the Uncle Ben of this universe.
Yeah.
This they basically turn this trilogy into an origin story for Spider-Man. They bring him into being the real, like, in quotations, the real, like, the classic Spider-Man. He's going to be distant from people, he's not going to want to get close to anybody. He's going to keep his identity a secret. He probably won't even really work with other heroes too much.
Mm.
Most of the humor, I would say, fell flat for me.
Well, oh yeah, that would probably be a gripe. Mainly
Ned.
with his friend Ned.
Yeah, Ned's annoying as fuck in this movie.
I found him. I guess I don't want to be mean to the actor. I think it's more the direction.
I mean, it's definitely the direction and the writing, though. Just like in the first movie, he's actually somewhat funny in Homecoming.
Mm-hmm.
That's like the best he gets written.
Yeah.
And in this movie, he's like, "I'm an idiot."
Yeah.
like
I think they
the
just.
whole time.
I think they needed that bumbling, borderline stupid sidekick guy. Yeah. But I mean, I think there was one moment which I mentioned kind of. I think when we just after we watched it when we were reflecting on it, which sort of it shouldn't bother me as much as it did because I do think it was played for laughs. But when he's asking, "Oh, who's your net equivalent to Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man?"
He's like, my best. Do you have a best friend? And he tells him how Harry died.
Yeah, like
Spider-Man 3. But the way they make Toby deliver it and like the kind of like way the scene is made is comedic.
yeah.
Whereas when you watch that movie, it's quite heartbreaking because he gives his life and dies the same way as his dad does and stuff. And
Oh yeah, yeah.
from Toby's perspective, he's like, well, I just it's my only actual like real friend other than Mary Jane.
I mean, he he probably had like PTSD from that.
Yeah, but but in my opinion, I don't know, like having Ned ask that question, I don't know. It's better than nothing, I suppose.
I feel bad because I'm not a fan of either Amazing Spider-Man film. But when I saw Andrew in this, I was like, oh, if only he had that one more that could really like redeem the series.
Out of the three.
Yeah, he was good. He was really good. I mean, they all played off one another really well. I thought they had some fantastic
that was the
chemistry.
best part of the movie. That was the best part of the movie for me. And Andrew is like super emotive and like happy. He has the best. He has the best, the second best moments easily.
Yeah.
Possibly even the best moments in the movie out of all three Spider-Man.
Yeah, well, he has there's a very good example of that when he there's a sequence where MJ's falling from the scaffolding of a Statue of Liberty that's being rebuilt, and it's Andrew that ends up catching her, which is obviously a callback to the scene where he attempted. Yeah, and it's kind of like a redemption for him, or like sort of finishing off that kind of plot thread. Like this film kind of just addresses things you didn't realize could be seen as being open-ended or needing some kind of resolution with the heroes, but also especially some of the villains. I mean, I guess Osborn...
Mostly Andrew's villains, actually, in my opinion. Oh, actually, no, that's not true. That's not true. Although...
the Sandman one kind of confused me a bit. And I think...
Well, he's just a bit of a fucking snake and a dumbass, so he's like, oh, these guys are winning, I'm going to join them. Because that's kind of what he does.
But there were definitely...
Oh, did you notice, actually, that the footage of him as a person and the footage of Lizard as a human was actually, I'm pretty sure it's just reused footage from their respective films.
Oh, okay.
I think it is. That's why they kind of appear in their other forms the whole rest of the time and have like quite mostly limited lines.
That makes some sense. Yeah, I want to say I read somewhere that if they weren't sure if they could get a few of those characters or actors back, so there are a few sort of scenes where it's just kind of like reaction shots rather than in the frame together because of they've already shot scenes. Not entirely sure what's going to happen. So I'm not surprised then. I guess while we're on chatting about the villains, I would say there were a couple of things that I think are potential issues. In terms of, I guess the first one, this was actually brought up to me by someone else I was like just chatting with today who also saw it. just via like messages, and he was asking me if I could recall in Amazing Spider-Man 2 if Electro ever knew who Spider-Man was, because there's a part where
I think Harry.
because okay, I mean people listening to the spoiler section will know, but the idea of why they're coming into this universe is that the spell Peter makes a spell so or wants Doctor Strange to make a spell so that people will forget he's Spider-Man. Doesn't work out well because they mess around with it. So people are coming to his universe that know who Spider-Man is. And I'm trying to recall, maybe you know, did Electro ever know Spider-Man by name? Because clearly he didn't physically know what he looked like. He said, "Oh, I thought you'd be black." Do you recall?
Yeah,
Because I haven't seen Amazing Spider-Man 2 since we watched it in the theater, because that
that's
movie
true.
sucks.
I guess he didn't know.
I mean, that's not the only villain, as we know, that comes back despite that premise. Venom being another one.
I mean, at least Electro fucking knows Spider-Man exists.
Yeah, yeah. And that's
Venom doesn't even have a Spider-Man in his universe.
yeah, and of course Venom.
Wait, you go. Sorry.
Oh no, you go, you go.
I was gonna say the way some people explain it is that the symbiotes are actually able to like communicate across the universe.
Yeah.
Potentially through universes, but
I think
don't know.
that's a little far fetched. I just feel like that might be a Sony thing because they love
That's
their
Avi
Venom.
Arad, bro. Avi Arad is like the number one Venom pusher in the universe. He's the reason like Spider-Man 3 had Venom in it. He's like, no, put him in. His like French Spider-Man ruining accent.
He's actually Israeli.
Yep, French Spider-Man ruining bastard. One thing that I loved, or sorry, would have loved, and I think it was probably the original intention before. I think Toby specifically wanted more acting time, like facial acting time. Is the introduction of the other two.
Oh yes.
And
Okay.
and even Davin agreed with this. And
Davin, who of course appeared in episode 3 of this show, for people wondering who we're referring to.
So he and I and you all kind of thought and agreed that first of all they probably did want to have the other two introduced on top of the school building. And definitely should have because it would have been way more impactful to have them just appear as silhouettes and you just going like, oh, is that them? And then having them jump down and have that heart to heart with him would have been so much more impactful. But no, you get Ned opening up a portal. But the way they should have done it was having Ned open up a portal and just showing his and Zendaya, MJ's reaction to, oh, is that Peter? It looks like him, and then having him come through and then have like a shocked or like confused expression, and then cutting away to Peter on top of the roof.
Okay.
Also to show that Ned could do the portals because that will also introduce him doing the portals.
Yeah. I guess you do need that. That scene does serve a purpose, but yeah, the main thing I think is it's kind of just like, oh, we're 2/3 of the way through the movie. Here are your Spider-Man. Here they are. We'll just open a portal. That's kind of what it felt like to me. Like, they're here now. Yeah, no, they opted instead to make reference to memes. I'm something of a scientist myself.
Oh man, people love that shit. I'm not a fan of it. Doesn't translate.
I mean, it kind of pops. It feels so forced in the context of that scene. He would just say, "Yeah, I can help." He wouldn't say like it's just it didn't feel. Yeah. Whereas at least with the 3 Spider-Men pointing at one another thing, that was a bit more.
That
organic.
was very subtly done, and like I didn't even kind of think about it when it was happening.
One other thing that I might raise, and this was kind of what I was referencing in the non-spoiler section, in terms of I mean, one of them was obviously the heroes all meeting together, the Spider-Man all meeting together, being kind of like a plot convenience, like, oh, it's just happening. Also, the solution to solving the villain problem beyond Dr. Octopus, I feel like it would take a lot longer than was shown in the story to like work out a formula to fix the lizard, to fix Goblin.
Well, to be fair, Andrew did say I've already done it once before, so he knew what he was doing with the lizard. So that's like pretty much like,
Uh,
like 5 seconds for him.
mhm.
Here's my thoughts on that. Um, and yeah, it technically would be a plot convenience, but also Spider-Man is like one of the smartest people in Marvel.
Mhm.
He is a fucking genius. But then when you combine like three Spider-Men, it's quite like, their
Okay.
combined IQ and working together would just be like, you know what I mean? Like it would just that's the way I see it. I do agree with you. Like, it kind of probably would take a lot longer, but you've got three fucking mega geniuses there. So,
Sure.
I'll take it. I'll let that one slide as far as like getting nitpicky about it, because as I'm sure we've said in multiple episodes, we are just nitpicking.
Yeah,
This
yeah,
movie
yeah.
was actually surprisingly narratively tight
Mhm.
for a multiverse spanning film. To be honest, like I was actually surprised at how tight knit the plot was for the most part.
One other thing I think I might bring up is I thought this was a distinctly kind of meta comment, was the conversation that the three Spider-Men were having together, where Andrew Garfield, his Spider-Man, sort of sitting along the railing, and Toby's reassuring him, "Hey, you're amazing."
Yeah,
Part of me was wondering if,
they intentionally used that word. Yeah, they
oh,
definitely did.
not so much that, but like just I don't know what the conversation is out there in terms of who prefers of the three Spider-Men, who is considered the worst. So I was wondering if that was kind of like a
Andrew,
reassurance thing.
Andrew usually gets put at the worst, at the bottom. I think Toby's the worst one. After this movie, though, I think like I'd like to see a Spider-Man 4, because his acting is like, I'm sure that his acting is intentionally campy in those movies. But as far as like solo films going, he kind of has the most like just the worst acting. And I love those movies. Like I love those movies a lot. But he's probably the worst Spider-Man, but just has, in my opinion, the best movies. The best like of
I'm gonna
a
say something controversial and say I still think that Spider-Man 2, and I might even say some of Spider-Man 3 still have action sequences that had a bit more oomph to them in terms of investment. Like a lot of the ones in this one, while they were technically pretty great, I
This definitely had the most impact with the action, but not the other two ones.
oh yeah, but I still feel like I would sooner watch on YouTube the train sequence from Spider-Man 2 than I would the big mashup, which might be saying something like three Spider-Man versus three, previous villains that I'd
Yeah, but
rather.
they're not really trying to hurt them or like
Oh
fight
no,
them or
no,
whatever.
but I
They're just
mean
trying to...
that's yeah, but I mean
Yeah, yeah,
I
I get
guess
what
what
you're
I'm
saying.
saying is like
I
there's
get what
just
you're saying.
something missing from this film that I feel like those earlier films still captured. Question, I suppose. Can't really make it a spoiler based one. Favorite iteration of Spider-Man, or like favorite actor who's played Spider-Man and why?
A 1970s guy.
All right, bye.
Yeah.